I don't control your messaging getting deleted. That's just what that's the bots doing. Conservatives cross the aisle. A politician Social Security has become a leading battleground for is this the same event? That is the same event. Okay, so the event just popped up twice. That's fine. So now we have 6533. Like, it's still very much going well. What are our policies? I don't actually know, because I haven't actually looked at this at all. Because we can't really change any of this. You can't change any of this. And we're currently at negative 600 political power, so everything is going splendidly. The Republican Democratic Party is on the verge of disaster, which seems bad. But you know what? I welcome disaster. I welcome it. Then we can have, the Republican NPP Center coalition. Maybe that'll do something. Contacts in West Siberia. We've been approached by an interesting proposition from the foreign officer of citadels in West Siberia. Being government very similar to ours, they wish for more open relations. Having a government in Western Siberia that aligns with us may be very beneficial. They asked us to recognize them as the legitimate government in Western Siberia. This is a major step in opening relations with them, and may anger the rival government slightly, but will not damage our relations with any other Russian governments beyond repair that we may also hold interest in. West Siberia is also requested trade relations. They have plenty of resources, especially that could be very valuable to us. We also hold many things that could be valuable to them, so there is no reason to disagree. Sure, give me that 10 political power. We're getting there. We are slowly getting there. So I'm assuming it's you, right? Yeah, the Western Siberian Republic that we're opening up relations with. You're currently in a war. You're about even on matching. It really depends on if, like, Germany decides to invade you at all. And you might be able to. I'm actually not too sure. The party is fracturing. Mr. President, I have some good news and I have some bad news. The good news is that we still push more of the Great Society through, and the bills are ready for your signature to make them law of the land. This will, of course, be a great success for the administration and many Americans that need it the most. The bad news, however, is that the Republican Democratic coalition is starting to break. Many of the right-leaning Democrats are openly starting to back away from you and the party, denouncing our efforts at centralizing the government as Bukharism. Some congressmen are even crossing the aisles of the MPP. Well, most of them didn't like the Great Society in general. They're leaving deals of blow to your political scheme, at least on the surface, somewhat bipartisan. On top of that, now the Republicans are starting to warm to the Great Whole Society, but they're starting to push for even further and make the plans more ambitious. They're really starting to sound like Harrington or Robert Kennedy. Hey now, don't throw that pen at me. I know you don't like RFK, but take that up with the Republicans. I'm just telling you what I've heard. I ain't no Bobby Kennedy. So social democracy gets a little bit more popular. The conservatives get a little bit more popular. And we're losing some popularity. Well, once they can't leave themselves out of the bootstraps, we will we'll reduce conservative rhetoric. It gives us more options for the Great Society. I can't see how that makes any difference with, again, negative 606 political power. But that's okay. Unity, or we can just break with them. We can reassure the public. I mean, we can't reassure the party because we have no political power, so we're basically going to break the coalition. Yeah, we'll reassure the public, and you know what? The Republicans and Democrats, they don't need to be in this whole stinking coalition thing. Let's break it apart. I'm sure they'll have absolutely no ill effects whatsoever. I mean, they're still voting together, so... And with 6, we'd have 48 seats. Which I think is exactly half. Which means that the vice president, in that situation, the vice president would break ties between, I think that's how it works. So if we have exactly 50%, we should still be okay, I think. And it looks like our thing with Japan is now over because we basically said absolutely not to trading Hawaii for the Panama Canal. Apparently, we won the negotiations. I have no idea what that means. But I don't think we got 100... No, we might have gotten 125 political power, because we used to be at, like, negative 700. A new consulate. We've been approached by the government of West Siberia once again, this time asking to establish a consulate in Washington. This would bring our countries ever closer together and would be a good way for us to improve relations with our two states. However, this may show that we are taking sides in Russia, and if we want to keep our neutral stance or show more interest in another government, we want to reject the consulate. Still, trade will facilitate between our two nations even more than before, giving us access to a larger amount of oil and some more influence in the region. Building a consulate would no doubt become very beneficial to us. Still, there have always been other repercussions for getting too nice to Western Siberia. Yeah, no, they can establish a consulate. That seems okay. I don't know if they have any resources whatsoever that we would want. No, they actually do have a ton of oil, you're right. And a lot of steel. And chromium, actually. And if we could theoretically send... You have 257 planes. If we could send planes to you and fight the West Russian Revolutionary Front, we might be able to kind of get that to work. We're going to do Into the World, 100 political power. Okay. A chance meeting. Making sure the door was locked behind him, Boris Yeltsin walked into the fancy bathroom, having to get out that boring trade meeting. Boris always remembered having to have his contingency vodka bottle for things like this. Unfortunately, the bathroom wasn't unoccupied. At the side, as an aide stood by the sink, washing his hands. The two met eyes, and the aide looked down at the bottle of vodka Yeltsin was holding. Yeltsin stuttered, unable to speak much English. Not exactly knowing how to get out of this one, Yeltsin shrugged, smiled, and produced a second shot glass. The aide looked at the glass, appearing to debate whether to take it up on Yeltsin's offer. Yeltsin poured the vodka into the glass, and the aide seemingly made up his mind, picked up the shot glass, and smiled. "Cheers," he said before downing the glass. A few shots later, and the two went back to the trade conference, the aide sitting down next to the senator representing the Americans at the meeting. The necessary papers were finally arrived, so the time came to sign a dozen or so pages in front of Yeltsin. Finishing with the fourth page, Yeltsin heard the senator say something in English to a translator. Senator Fulbright wants to ask how many shots his aide got before giving up Mr. Yeltsin. Red-faced Boris sheepishly gave his response to the translator, 2, and they weren't even filled to the brim either. The senator broke out in laughter and spoke to the translator again. "Next time you have to go for a drink with my boy Bill Clinton here, have him make me proud by drinking for it like a real man." "Sure will, but not in a bathroom next time." We're having some crossover events here, apparently. Research slot available. What do we want to go for? We've already gotten you upgraded. Probably like better aircraft. So let's get all of you guys going. So Bill Clinton and Boris Yeltsin just sharing some vodka shots in a Washington D.C. bathroom. I don't even know, like, I don't even know why these are even here anymore, honestly. Like, these should go away. South Africa, it doesn't matter at all. You would think the CIA would have some more stuff to do, but apparently not. Apparently, you've actually annexed part of... Oh, you probably annexed stuff from Spain. Yeah, after their war. That actually makes a lot of sense. So, you know what? Break up with the Democrats. Democrats are no more. Get them out of here. If they're going to flip to the NPP anyways, it's time for them to decide if they want to stick with us or join up with the enemy. Engineering stuff. I mean... Air detection plus 5%? Is there any industry available? Yes. So let's go for cap and growth. 167 days on that. Yeah, the Central African Republic did collapse at some point. But that's all Twitch chat's fault. I had nothing to do with it. I mean, I did because I'm the one who kind of made it happen. I chose that option. But that was on chat's behalf. The Egyptian Revolutionary Command Council declared war on the Kingdom of Egypt. Are you still? I guess. I guess that Italy pulled out of Egypt at some point? Okay, well you guys can fight it out, that's completely okay. The Muslim Brotherhood has declared war on the Egyptian Revolutionary Council. So you guys are ultra-nationalist. You're in the middle of a desert though, so I can't imagine you're going to be too powerful. Yemen Arab Democratic Republic declared war on the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Sure, why not? Just a bunch of dashes, okay. So there's a lot of stuff going on right now in the declare war on the Republic of Sudan. What's happening in Egypt is falling. Why is there a 15th civil war in Egypt? Yeah, so Sudan is also broken apart. Sure. So who's in here? We got the Republic of Sudan, who's a democracy. We have the fascist. We have authoritarian democratic, and then we got you two down here that are just kind of you are despot, you are authoritarian democratic as well. So you can all fight it out. That's okay. The 1969 World Series. The 1969 MLB season was drawing to a close as the dominant Baltimore Orioles, American League champions, squared off against the National League champions, the New York Mets. Both teams had swept their opponents in the league championship games and were set to face off in this year's World Series. The 1969 Baltimore Orioles squad had been considered one of the greatest baseball teams in MLB history, led by slugger Frank Robinson and pitcher Jim Palmer, as the team won 109 games and lost only 53. On the other hand, the Mets had achieved their first ever winning season this year, led by coach Yogi Berra and pitcher Nolan Ryan. The mid-October matchup would go down as one of the most shocking upsets in history in the baseball. The talented Baltimore team routed the Mets 4-1 October 11th, but the Mets stormed back and won the final 4 games in championship, defeating the Orioles 5-3. Tonight in front of 57,000 fans. The team was quickly dubbed the Miracle Mets for their outstanding play against a formidable rival. It is the Mets' first World Series pennant. So let me see. You have 9-16, 23-4. So I can't imagine that you guys are going to lose that. 5, 5, 5, 5, and 5. So I guess anybody's game. Like, I mean, the Baathists, they can't fight a two-front war. So the Baathists are definitely going to lose. It's really who's going to win, the Republic of Sudan or the Sudan Defense Force. And then, yeah, the Egyptian revolutionaries are absolutely going to dominate in Egypt. So we're going to have communists here. You guys are already communist. You might also win down here as well. Yeah, King of Egypt is just dead. They're gone. And the Muslim Brotherhood with 3 divisions. Maybe you shouldn't have started an uprising in the middle of a desert. Just, that's my tip for you next time. Don't do that. And yeah, you guys are down here fighting, but I really don't think that makes any difference whatsoever. So Italy is losing territory down in Africa. We'll see if that has any real impact in the future. Yeah, I mean, the Egyptian revolutionaries have just completely dominated it. It wasn't even a contest for them. So, yeah. And I guess you're just never going to invade these guys up towards the north, huh? Galicia, Basque, Catalonia, and then like the small Asturian communist group. Critically unstable. The NPP shows their support. While facing opposition with his own party, President Johnson's all-or-nothing approach to the Social Security Act has found a source of support outside of it, the centrist faction of the National Progressive Party. Henry Scoop Jackson has spoken warmly on the bill on multiple occasions, and this morning has contacted the administration on behalf of the group of senators of the NPPC. They're pledging their votes to ensure the passing of the Social Security Act in its current comprehensive state. President Johnson is hailing their support as proof of the broad appeal of the Act and the important victory of the Great Society. Jackson on his board explains his support of the Act and willingness to cross the aisle to pass it as proof of his commitment to America and the welfare of the common man. So, at this point, I feel like the center should just join the Republicans. It should just be like the Democrats in the far-right NPP and just the Republicans in the center NPP. That makes way more sense as a coalition group at this point in time, but... light aircraft, heavy aircraft. Or political power than 50. We're going to have to pay for it somehow. Sure. Let's pass Social Security. Right now we have... I mean, they're still voting for us, which is nice, even though I basically have kicked them out of the coalition. So it's nice to see that they don't hold too much of a grudge, at least for right now. Towing the party line. No one in the White House or the halls of Congress could avoid sensing a recent shift in the atmosphere. Relationship between the two main wings of the Republican and Democratic Party are at a low, and the accusations of putting personal agendas ahead of the party unity and stability abound behind closed doors, and a relationship that was never warm in the first place is cooling further. The latest fault line is the passage of the Social Security Act, which is clearly more important to the president than keeping the Democratic wing of his party content. Great efforts has been expended in recruiting every supporter of the act and pressuring, badgering, and bullying its detractors into submission. Most of the Democratic lawmakers have fallen in line, seemingly judging that they still have too much to lose if they publicly speak out against their party. For many Democratic voters, however, this is taking another instance of the Republican wing happily taking their votes while ignoring their interests, feeding a growing sense of disenfranchisement within the party. Also feeding that sense are the firebrands of the NPP far right, who are finding a waiting audience for the condemnations of a socialist in chief and its attacks on the white working class of America. We're growing more divided, and the NPP is doing better in the southern states, but they were already doing really well there, so I'm not concerned at all. So, who are you guys? You're just like nobody, right? There's not the guys in Ghana, and you're not really doing anything down here. I mean, you're still a puppet of ours, right? You're a client state. The death of Joseph Kennedy. A spokesman for the Kennedy family reports today that the former president Joseph P. Kennedy passed away in Massachusetts home at 81. He's survived by his wife and 6 children. The elderly Kennedy leaves behind a complicated legacy. His success as a patriarch of the Kennedy dynasty is substantial, as his sons John, Robert, and Edward all made names for themselves in the political sphere. The elderly Kennedy was elected president in 1932 and presided over the slow recovery of the United States from the Great Depression. Despite serious criticisms from his non-interventionist policy, both in economic and foreign policy, he won a second term in 1936. His second term was mainly defined by Kennedy's continuation reluctance to intervene in the European War and failure to fully prepare the United States for a global power projection against Japan or Germany. Kennedy was a source of much criticism in the aftermath of his presidency, which only increased after the failed intervention in England and the signing of the Gag Accords by his successor, Harry Truman. Democrats would not hold the White House for another 2 decades when his son, John F. Kennedy, succeeded the disgraced President Richard Nixon. Kennedy has spent the years after the presidency retired from public life, having lost his son, Joe Jr., in a bombing raid over the Pacific, but he reemerged to help with his son's bid for a vice presidency. However, the elderly Kennedy kept himself out of the public eye due to widespread criticisms of comments he made advocating detente of Germany to focus on confronting Japan, and refused to help with his son Robert's presidential run in 1964. Regardless of how many American people remember him, Kennedy left a lasting mark on the nation's history, and his family is most likely continuing to have a major role in politics for the foreseeable future. Apparently all is still well. The country is not... Well, does the United States actually ever enter crisis? Because I feel at this point we... So unsurprisingly, the Botha state has been defeated, but I don't think anybody's surprised by that. There's no way they could have won a 2-front war there at all. Is there any way for the United States to actually enter the crisis mode? Thank you, Gamalkia, for the follow as well. Because if we're not in a crisis, I guess maybe the crisis will happen if we ever enter, like, a major war. Like, that makes sense. So you have 10 more days till you're done. Social Security Act. We can secure a majority of the votes, which we do have. We only need 1 of these as well. So pass Social Security. You don't require this. We can't get Medicare expansion because we cannot pressure the states because we have no political power whatsoever. Community Action Initiative. I mean, you're okay. I mean, you're a lot of political power loss, which is unfortunate. Paying the piper. Now that the shape of the Social Security Act is more or less settled, it all remains now is to decide how we're going to fund it. The project cost of the programs is substantial, and there's no room to pay for it in the current budget. This means that President Johnson administration has no other option than to enact new taxes. There are 2 main camps within the administration. The first proposed a new tax on the income specifically to support Social Security. While a new tax is never going to be a popular proposition, they believe that they can make it easier to swallow for the electorate by framing it as an investment for their own retirement. The second camp proposes a much wider tax reform. It contains changes to almost every system of tariff, levies, and taxes collected by the federal government, and increases the revenue, will leave us with a lot of extra funding even after Social Security is provided for. This reform is certain to prove very hard to sell to the public, but the increase in funds gives the administration a lot of financial room act going forward. And will all but guarantee we won't have to raise taxes again for the foreseeable future. Should we fund Social Security all the way? Okay, have a good night, professional swerver. let's just fund Social Security. It's negative 75 political power, so be it. Do we not have the votes now? We don't meet the requirements. What requirement do we not meet? Oh, we do need one of these. So we can't pass this until we have 50 political power. Well, will that ever happen? That's a great question. It's a fantastic question. I don't know if we're ever going to be able to answer that. Because right now, we're getting 0.85. So that's still like a year and a half of doing absolutely nothing. For us to even reach 0, let alone have 50. Okay, so we got another 3 units. We'll deploy you into purple. Or I guess that's pink, but whatever. Let's go for, like, more APCs. I'm sure they're going to be important at some point. The Reich's OKW. Have you done the, like, have you done any of this stuff yet? I don't know. Because again, we do want to be on at least decent terms with them. Why are you at war with the Euro League? Oh, the Euro League, I don't know. It looks like the Republic of Sudan probably is going to defeat the Sudan Defense Force. So that's going to give us at least some ally in Africa. And we're almost at 0% stability. Almost. We're almost there. Is there anything I can even... Like, there's nothing I can do, right? Like, I have no options here whatsoever. I don't think so. Which is very unfortunate. Because we don't really have any allies outside of here. Because we did fail our war in... Not our war, but we weren't able to get any kind of foothold in England, unfortunately. I mean, we still have Australia, New Zealand, South Africa. So we have some kind of allies around. But not a ton. I'm surprised that, like, why... I don't know why Italy doesn't have a faction. They only get, like, this, what is it? Associated State? What do they call it again? Yeah, Associated State. I don't know why Italy doesn't have a faction down here to kind of put all these guys into, like, one group. That's fine. Stealth technology? You know, let's get more range. It's actually only 75 days as well. So it's not super, super expensive. Yeah, because, like, Italy's got a pretty big, alliance going on here. And I don't think, like, there's... I mean, we could do some stuff with, like, the military, but I really don't think we want to do that at all. Yeah, so let's get the Elementary Secondary Education Act going. Seems okay. Like, we can get more political power in the future if we don't have to do... Like, if we just don't have a focus we can do. We can, like, double the speed we get political power at. But it's still not going to be very fast. Even with that. I wonder if Sudan can actually invade these other guys down towards the south. Maybe. The final stages of debates around the ESEA have begun. How much money should be committed to the program? The growing coalition of conservatives who find themselves increasingly opposed to the president's education policies have requested a more watered-down appropriations committed to the bill. Lessening the strain on the federal budget can allow for improved budgets for the Department of Defense, or simply stave off any risk of budgetary default in the future. The president's allies in Congress believe that it's wholly likely for the bill to pass, even with stronger finance commitments to primary and secondary education. The question is whether the president wishes to further strain his relationship with the powerful conservative lobby within his party. I mean, they already hate us. They hate us so much. We'll also spend a little bit more here. Like, we're still making $90 billion a year. So, like, what's the issue? Like, what are you worried about? Like, that's not growing. Budgetary concerns. Rain fell down in Great Chief of Washington. Lyndon, I cannot in good conscience allow this bill. President Johnson's hands were in his pockets. His gaze out of the South Lawn. A peal of thunder in the distance really overwhelmed softer patter of rain on the windows of the Oval Office. Senator Russell was here again, voicing concerns over the administration's agenda. With all respect, Lyndon, you must take care to respect the wishes of those constituents throughout the South, and not just mine in Georgia. A good number of good people do not think dumping millions into this program will do much to improve the welfare of these Negro children. Jonathan suddenly drew himself up, his eyes light. He sat on his heels and briskly walked up to Russell, planting himself right in front of him. Their noses were an inch apart, the buttons on their jackets were touching, his voice boomed. Senator, I do not give a rat's ass about those damn constituents. I have not met every member of Congress, held meetings with 20 teachers' unions across the entire country, crafting this bill to perfection, just being told no by a few bigots voting for a party which I owe no allegiance. Russell froze, his lips tight, his eyes stared into the president's. There was a moment of silence. Calmly, Johnson continued. Senator, I would kindly ask you to relay to your colleagues that my position on that is final, that is all. Okay, Lyndon, as you wish. Johnson turned back around, walking past Resolute's desk, again staring out at the red-drenched windows. And you will address me as Mr. President. You might want to look at your annual deficit. Annual deficit's $39 billion. Income is 19%. I mean, annual revenue is bigger than deficit. So that's good. I mean, okay, maybe total expenditure, I guess, is 129 billion. That's fine. Don't worry about it. It's all good. So Senate race has come once again, and it looks like the NPP is going to win almost every single seat. So let's go for the Great Lakes. I mean, if they go towards the NPP center, that's still kind of okay. We'll see how these elections go. Like, we have one seat here that's safe for the Republicans. The East. Oh, okay. Well, this might be a disaster for Lyndon B. Johnson, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Again, we are currently supporting the NPP in terms of our events here.